Delicious potato gnocchi. Look how fluffy these gnocchi are. The key to getting them this light and fluffy is by drying out the potato as much as possible throughout our process, and I'm gonna show you guys exactly how to do it. Come join me. We'll start by preheating the oven to 400 degrees. Then we'll go ahead and get ourselves about 3 pounds of potatoes, and let's prep them to get baked by stabbing them a bunch. Once your potatoes are pricked, I like to actually make little beds of salt for mine, and it really just helps get all the moisture I can out of them. When we go to form our final dough, we'll want as little moisture from these potatoes to be incorporated as possible. It'll make for a much richer texture. If you get a good amount of moisture out of these now, you won't have to use as much flour later on, which gives you more of that light, fluffy potato flavor and texture. Now that these have been poked and prepped, we're gonna get them into the 400-degree oven for about 45 minutes to an hour, or just until they're fork tender all the way through. Once our potatoes are fork tender, we can go ahead and get them out of the oven, and then we're gonna split each one open carefully so you don't burn yourself. And it should be steaming like this. Break it open a little bit like that. So we wanna try to get as much steam out as we can. And we're gonna do this to all of our potatoes. Once most of the steam from your potatoes has evaporated, we can go ahead and start pushing them through a fine mesh sieve or a potato ricer if you have one. And of course, all we're trying to do is make our potato as silky and smooth as possible. A little extra effort. As we know in the kitchen, a little effort goes a long way. And once you're done, you should have a bunch of nice and light, fluffy potato. Should be fairly dry as well. Into this, we're gonna crack 1 large egg and about a teaspoon of salt. Now we just give that a good old mix. I kind of like to press and fold as I go, working that egg into the potato. And by the end of it, it should all be one color with no streaks. If you still have streaks of yellow, go over it again. And by then you should have a beautiful golden hue. Next, add 1 cup of flour. Gently fold that in. Once it's all well and incorporated, you should be able to just pick it right up out of the bowl at this point. And we're gonna go ahead, put it right on our surface to knead for a little bit. And every time you do this, it'll be a little bit different. But what you're looking for is that your potato isn't sticky, like mine isn't here. Depending on how much moisture you got out of your dough in the first couple steps, you might not need any more flour than 1 cup, which would be good, because it means you're getting more of the potato flavor and texture as opposed to the flour. So what we're really looking for here is whether or not this is too sticky or too dry. It probably won't be too dry. Mine, with a cup of flour, is almost perfect, but I've had to use up to 2 cups of flour in the past. Your mileage may vary, but what you want to keep an eye out for is how sticky it is. It doesn't stick to your hands, doesn't stick to your work surface, means it should be ready to roll out. But of course, you don't want it so dry that it's falling apart. Mine's holding its shape very well. It's not very sticky, so I think I'm gonna roll with it. I don't need to add any more flour. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab about 1/3 of my chunk here, maybe 1/4, and I'm gonna get it rolled into a log, remembering to remove jewelry first. So your log should look like that. And all we're gonna do is take our little phalanges and very lightly press down. You wanna pull your hands away from each other while rolling back and forth very lightly. Once you start to shape it into a perfect cylinder, you can put a little bit more force down. And once you have yourself a pretty uniform log here, you get it cut in half, dust it with flour. My logs are probably about 3/4 to 1 inch. Then once we've got our 2 logs, we can go ahead and chop them about every 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch or so. This is about where I like them. I hit them with an extra little spurt of flour. And we have beautiful gnocchi. All that's left to do now is boil them. Now we're gonna bring a big pot of water up to a boil. Of course, generously salting it. Then we're gonna fill a bowl with a bunch of ice and water, and we'll set this to the side. We are just about to break into a rolling boil here. And as we do, we can go ahead and load up about 1/4 to 1/3 of our gnocchi. Stirring that in gently so they don't stick together. The gnocchi will tell you when they're done when they start to float to the top, at which point we're gonna immediately blanch them into our ice cold bath. You'll start to see some of them are finally floating to the top of the edges here. That's when you know they're pretty much about done. We can go ahead and start to collect them, draining any excess water, and then gently putting them into our ice bath, just like so. Now let's just give both the gnocchi and this pot some time to cool down so we can handle them. After about 10 minutes, we can go ahead and get our gnocchi drained. I like to get a towel and dry my gnocchi as much as I can. Once that's done, we can put them back in our bowl, making sure to dry this out first. Now we can just take a few tablespoons of some neutral oil like canola oil, put it right over top, and then give these a bit of a shake about, making sure we coat all of them. Now we can cover these and store them for up to about a week in the fridge. I believe they'll last longer, but honestly, they're usually gone within the first week I make them. Now we're at the point where we can actually use our gnocchi to make some food. I have a pan here that I put on medium heat, and I'm gonna let that get a little warm. Into this, I'm gonna toss about a tablespoon of butter. Once our butter is melted, we can go ahead and throw in about a cup's worth of gnocchi, and we're just gonna let that fry on medium heat for a couple of minutes. After a couple minutes, we'll get them moving around a bit. And eventually they should start to look beautiful and golden like this. Once they get to this stage, we can go ahead and kill the heat. Throw in a dash of salt, freshly ground black pepper, give that a light mix, and then we can hit it with a little Parmesan. And obviously there's no limit to the amount you're allowed to put on. It's your cheese. And I love a lot of Parmesan. And there you have it. Delicious homemade gnocchi. Made perfect every time.